So, what's the difference between a creative agency and a typical digital marketing agency? Are they pretty much the same? Do they offer the same types of services, or are they completely different? Well, in today's video, we're going to break down the differences between a creative and a standard digital marketing agency and which model is going to be the best if you're a beginner. So make sure that you watch the video all the way through so you'll know which model is the best to start if you're a beginner. My name is Juan, and if you're new here, make sure that you like and subscribe so you don't miss any new videos when they're uploaded. So first and foremost, let's talk about a digital marketing agency. What exactly do they do? How do they go about their business? Well, the standard digital marketing agency business model is typically centered around lead generation. This is more advertising. This is more content creation with the intent to generate new leads and customers to that particular business. Services are typically going to consist of paid traffic, content creation, organic marketing, and oftentimes they'll also provide like very simple graphic design, maybe website design, but nothing too extraordinary or kind of out of the box that a creative agency will be typically focusing in on. One of the biggest things to keep in mind here is that a lot of times a standard marketing agency will typically be charging less to their clients to create things like a website or create something as simple as a logo. A logo for a standard digital marketing agency can be anywhere between, $100, to up to maybe $1,000, maybe at the most. The digital marketing agency is still going to provide a lot of the creative type of services that, the actual creative agency provides as well. However, like I mentioned, they're typically going to be charging a whole lot less because they're working with small to medium-sized businesses. Sometimes they'll work with larger businesses as well. However, for the most part, digital marketing agencies are focused the majority on lead generation, a little bit of branding, but it's not their specialty, okay? Now, in contrast, a creative agency, they're focusing on the brand identity and making sure that they're conveying kind of the message that that brand, that business wants to have their audience receive. And so ultimately, a creative agency is really just focused in on the brand identity of a particular business. They're not necessarily concerned with lead generation, with generating more customers, because that is a whole nother service that is separate than the creative element of the branding and the brand identity and the brand awareness, right? And so what these guys will typically be doing is working with larger businesses that have those budgets to actually invest, right, a very large amount into creating a brand identity. For example, with a creative agency, they'll typically charge a business for like a logo several thousands of dollars, if not more. I mean, I've seen where logos can go up to $10,000, right? Because here's the thing. It's all about the creative element, the brand identity. And larger businesses with bigger budgets are typically going to want to spend as much as they can that they see, as far as value, to be able to get, right, the right type of logo. Even though it may take somebody, a day or so to create a logo, there's a ton of work that actually goes on behind the scenes as far as the strategy, as far as coming up with ideas, as far as planning everything. And so there's a lot that goes on as far as the pre-planning stages before anything even gets created. And so understand that a creative agency is doing a lot more in the pre-initial stages versus a marketing agency that will typically just provide a logo for, a simple $100, right? Or a simple $1,000. There's so much that goes into, developing the logo, into planning it, into preparing for it, coming up with ideas. And so that takes a lot of time, energy, and resources. And so creative agencies will most likely be working on a project basis, which means that once they finish a logo project, now they are typically looking on to the next project. And they're typically also charging by the hour, which is where a lot of bigger agencies and creative agencies will be doing a lot of their billing and charging. They'll say like, hey, this project is going to take 10 hours, okay? And for those 10 hours, we'll charge you X dollars per hour. Or they may have like a fixed fee of like, for a logo, that's $5,000, right? Something as simple as that. And so oftentimes they're not doing a monthly retainer. They're not doing any type of lead generation type of services. Everything is involved on a project basis, okay? And so the services that these guys typically provide, as I mentioned, logo design, user experience, which is the user experience of your website, web development. I mean, there's websites that, larger creative agencies or creative agencies in general will charge, 10, 15, up to $100,000 for a website, right? And where, we can easily sell a website to a local business for $1,000 or $2,000, and it doesn't take very much to get that up and running. However, there's so much that goes into, as I mentioned, the pre-planning, the idea, the wireframe of a website for building something from scratch. And so that's where the difference is there in terms of the website development for a creative agency. They're going to be creating something typically from scratch, completely brand new. And so they have to do the wireframe, the user experience, the user interaction, right? And so making sure everything is set up properly. And then they're charging, like I said, 5, 10, up to $100,000 for a website. And there's a whole lot involved with that versus a typical agency just providing a website through a template where all they need to do is change in some information and the website's up and running and they're ready to go. And one of the other areas that the creative agencies really focus on is the strategy of how you're going to do something. And they'll typically charge for that strategy to be, executed upon. And so let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a large business or, fairly decent sized business that wants to get a whole new website done. Well, what they're going to do is typically lay out a strategy and the recommendation, and they're typically going to charge for that, okay? And then they're going to also charge for the execution. This is just like, charging for consulting, where you got a business that comes to you and says, hey, I want you to build me a lead generation system. Well, the creative agency is typically going to charge for the strategy. Like, okay, hey, we're going to go to the drawing board and we're going to spend, time, energy, and resources into developing a strategy for you. Now, if you want us to execute on this strategy, then it's going to be XYZ. So they're typically getting paid for the strategy up front, and then also on the back end where the actual execution and deliverables are being had. Because with typical marketing agencies, they're going to include everything all at once, where, you go to a business and you say, hey, I can help you get more customers, right? Get more leads. And let's say through Facebook ads or Google ads, right? Well, that particular agency is typically going to have everything involved in their system, in their process, the sales funnel building, the ad creatives, all of that is going to be included, where a creative agency will typically charge for each particular area. They may charge for you to build the sales funnel. They may charge you for the ad creatives. They may charge you for a marketing strategy. They may charge you for coming up with an offer, right? And so understand that creative agencies are typically working with larger businesses. They're typically able to help businesses on the creative side of things, where a lot of it's strategy, a lot of it's pre-planning, developing, and also with the implementation and execution. However, it's mostly going to be on a project basis, okay? And so if you're starting out and you don't really have any type of digital marketing experience or working with anything in the creative space, then I recommend that you start a digital marketing agency, because it's going to give you that experience. It's going to give you that confidence of working with small to medium sized businesses, and you can find an area that resonates and connects with you. Let's say, for example, you're in a marketing agency and you find that you really resonate and connect with a certain type of service, like explainer videos or animation videos, or even just any type of business video out there. Let's say that you really connect with and resonate with that, then you can charge, large businesses several thousands of dollars just for creating videos, right? Very custom videos for businesses. Same thing with websites. There's a lot of freelancers that are creative, kind of folks that will work with businesses, and they'll charge $10,000, $20,000 for a website. But like I mentioned, There's a lot of pre-planning. Everything is developing from scratch and coming together, right? And so it's not typically going to be templated. So I recommend, if you're starting out, start out with the marketing agency, work with some businesses that are small to medium, right? Get that experience, get that confidence, and then move on to the creative agency side of things if that's an area that you want to focus on, okay? So that's going to be it here for this one, and we'll see you on the next one.